Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. Today we are diving into something that's pretty big and kind of crazy, a security thing with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and we've got a bunch of news articles about it and a briefing document. So our goal here is not just to repeat the news, but to really understand what went down. What are people worried about, and what does this mean for sharing secret military stuff?
Right. We are going to dissect this whole thing. What does it tell us about how they handle information security at the top levels? And could this mess with military stuff? And what about public trust?
Okay, so the main thing here is about sharing information on a planned U.S. strike on Houthi rebels in Yemen. And they shared it on a Signal group chat. And guess what a journalist was in that chat? Yeshri Goldberg from The Atlantic, so that's a problem. And a lot of people are very concerned. So, okay, let's start with the security lapse. What went wrong here?
What's really interesting is everyone, Republicans, lawmakers, security experts, all pretty much agree that talking about a strike before it happens on an app like Signal is a huge security risk and a major mistake. This is not just a small oopsie.
Yeah, people are not happy about it. Senator Kevin Cramer called it the first strike, at the beginning of this administration, and said, don't let it happen again. And he wasn't the only one. Another Republican senator, they didn't say who said, he was like, what were they thinking, sharing all those details about the operation, like when the jets take off and when the drones will get there on an app like that? This is super secret stuff.
Yeah, and Senator Roger Wicker, he's the big guy on the Senate Armed Services Committee, the guy who oversees all this stuff. He said the information they talked about should have been classified. That's a huge deal coming from him. It shows how serious this is.
No kidding. And CNN went even further. They called it one of the worst intelligence breaches by top officials in years. And they said it raises big questions about whether these guys can actually keep us safe. So when you see what they actually shared, things like 215 F-18's launch first strike package and 1345 trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Also, strike drones launch, MQ-9s. I mean, these are not just ideas. These are the actual plans with exact times.
Exactly. If that information gets into the wrong hands, it could really mess things up for the mission and put the people involved in danger.
Yeah. That brings us to the next problem, how Secretary Hegseth is handling this, and it's not helping his credibility at all.
Right. He first denied everything, saying nobody's texting war plans, but then the National Security Council came out and said, yeah, those texts are real. That made him look really bad.
Yeah, it's a mess. That same senator, the one who didn't want to be named, said, the worst part is Hegseth saying it didn't happen. Just admit it, you screwed up. And even Britt Hume on Fox News said, for God's sake, when he heard Hegseth's denial.
Yeah, CNN pointed that out too. Hegseth kept saying, no one is texting war plans. But that wasn't true. It makes you wonder about his judgment and if he's really being honest with everyone.
It's like the denial is a bigger deal than the leak itself, and it gets even worse when you think about what Hegseth said at his confirmation hearing. He said, if you're a rifleman and you lose your rifle, they're throwing the book at you. So, accountability is a big deal, but now he's not taking responsibility.
That's a good point. It shows that they expect everyone in the military to be accountable, but are they holding the top guys to the same standard?
Okay, so putting aside the politics, what could actually go wrong for the military and our intelligence because of this leak?
Well, the biggest worry is that it puts our troops in danger. If the Houthis know when and where the attack is coming from, they can protect themselves, move their stuff, or even try to stop the attack. Senator Mark Warner said, why I'm so upset is this puts our guys and gals in harm's way. That's what we were talking about here.
And it's not just the immediate attack. Retired Brigadier General Stephen Anderson said, what about our spies in the area? He said, that person might very well be being tortured or dead right now as a result of that threat. That's scary. This kind of leak can have serious consequences for people on the ground.
And Hegseth also talked about taking out a top missile guy and having positive identification, but sharing that kind of stuff tells the Houthis how we gather intel, and they can just improve their security and make it harder for us next time. It's like giving away our secrets.
Okay, so what is the White House saying about all this?
They are trying to make this whole thing go away. They say it's a hoax and blame the media for blowing it out of proportion.
Classic White House move. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt came out strong saying it's a big hoax and that Democrats and the media are making stuff up. It's like they're trying to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, and President Trump jumped in too. He said Hegseth had nothing to do with this and called it the only glitch in 2 months. So they're protecting Hegseth, even though it looks like he was involved.
CNN said the White House is blatantly denying facts and arguing about whether this was technically classified or war plans. But that's just semantics. It doesn't change the fact that they shared sensitive information.
Right. It's like they're trying to hide behind definitions instead of admitting they messed up.
So everyone is saying this is bad. Security experts, lawmakers, both sides are calling for a real investigation. They want to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, people want accountability. They want to know exactly what happened and how bad it really is. They want to make sure it never happens again.
Senators Wicker and Reed from the Armed Services Committee are on it. They're sending a letter to the Defense Department. They want a report from the Inspector General, ASOPA, and a classified briefing so they can get all the details. And they want to make sure those signal messages are saved so no one can delete them.
That's a good first step. The Inspector General can figure out if someone messed up and what needs to change so it doesn't happen again. And the classified briefing lets the people in charge see exactly what was shared and how bad it could be.
And Senator Tom Tillis said everyone just needs to get the facts out. So it seems like everyone, even Republicans, want to know the truth about what happened.
Transparency and accountability are crucial, especially when it comes to national security. It's the only way to keep people's trust in the government.
Okay, so what does all of this mean for Hegseth's job, and will this cause more problems for the Republicans?
Well, even when he was being confirmed, people were worried that he wasn't the right guy for the job. It was a close vote. The vice president had to break the tie, and some big-name Republicans like McConnell Collins and Murkowski voted against him. They said he didn't have enough experience, and they weren't sure about his judgment. Now, this whole thing is making those concerns look pretty real.
Like, they were right to be worried. Senator Kramer said this is strike three. So some Republicans are definitely watching him closely. And Senator McConnell said before that Hegseth wasn't ready for the massive and solemn responsibility of this job. Well, now we see what he meant.
And Senate Majority Leader John Thune said Hegseth and the others need to acknowledge they made a serious mistake. They know it. They should own it and fix it so it never happens again. So even the top Republicans are saying they messed up big time.
The Democrats are not messing around. Schumer and Jeffries want Hegseth fired. They say this proves he can't handle this job.
Yeah, but most Republicans are still waiting to see what Trump says. They are worried, but they're letting the president decide if Hegseth stays or goes. We've heard from Senators Ernst, Cornyn, and Graham, and they seem to think it's up to Trump.
It's interesting. People are comparing Hegseth to guys like Mattis and Gates, former defense secretaries. They're saying those guys would never have made this kind of mistake. They knew what they were doing. So even some Republicans think Hegseth is not in the same league.
Right. It shows that they don't think Hegseth has the experience or the skills to be in charge of the Defense Department.
Okay, so last thing to think about. What does this whole thing tell us about using apps like Signal for military stuff? And how does this affect security at the top?
The scary thing is they were talking about a military operation on an app that anyone can use. Who knows how secure that is? It's definitely not how the military is supposed to communicate. They're supposed to use special secure channels, especially for classified stuff.
Seriously, why were they even using Signal? Was it just easier? Did they not think about the risks? Or is there something else going on? It's definitely not what you would expect from the military.
And this could really damage people's trust. First, people might not trust the government to keep secrets anymore. Second, lower-level people in the government might think it's unfair if they have to follow strict rules, but the top guys don't. And third, our allies might not trust us anymore if they think we can't keep secrets.
CNN said, in Donald Trump's White House, it matters less what you screw up than how hard you fight back. And that seems right. They're not really trying to fix the problem. They're just trying to make the bad press go away.
Exactly. They're more worried about politics than about actually keeping things secure.
So, bottom line, they messed up big time. They shared secret information, and it raises questions about whether they can be trusted. And the White House is just making it worse by denying everything, and the long-term consequences for Hegseth and for our national security, who knows?
Yeah, this whole thing shows that they might have problems with how they communicate, and it makes you wonder if they can keep our secrets safe. The way this plays out will tell us a lot about how they handle national security going forward.
So last question for you. If it's so easy to share secrets these days, and if the government doesn't seem to care that much when they get leaked, what does that say about how we keep things secure in the digital age? And what about holding people in power accountable for their mistakes? It's something to think about. That's all for The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.